Zehra, and
yeah.
please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today in this lecture. I will briefly talk about Netmarble today and how we see hyper-casual publishing, how we see the hyper-casual world, and how we would like to disrupt the hyper-casual version, why we defined our way of publishing in terms of Netmarble vision. So first of all, let me give you a brief explanation of what Netmarble is doing currently and before, of the history. We are one of the biggest mobile publishing companies in the world. We were founded in 2000. We were doing PC online, and afterwards we went to mobile only. Then we started free to play as well, disrupting the mobile world. And afterwards we partnered with Tencent and NCSoft, acquired GenCity and Kabam, and we did this global expansion of RPG games and casual games, all rich in player experience. So we have Marvel Future White, King of Fighters, All Star, 7 Deadly Sins, a lot of IPs that we're very proud of. And very recently, we also invested in Big Hit Entertainment, and where we had this BTS World game published. And very recently, there was this IPO of Big Hit Entertainment as well. And also Netmarble had its IPO at the end of 2017 with $12 billion evaluation. So they're a global company with global coverage with more than 6,000 employees all around the world. So today we will discuss more about hyper-casual. It's the mobile's latest disruption in gaming industry. Why it's disruptive? Because it has this very mass appeal, and it made everyone a gamer. It democratized being a gamer, or we can say. So there's this high mass appeal of hyper-casual, and why is that high mass appeal? It's very snackable, it's very easy, it's one finger gaming. The most important thing about hyper-casual games is they're very satisfactory, very, very, very visually stimulating, and they have this minimalistic UI and design. But this doesn't mean that making a hyper-casual game is an easy thing to do. On the contrary, making a hyper-casual game is really hard, because doing something complex in a simpler way requires a certain kind of sophistication, very hard research, and very hard work as well. So there is this impact of hyper-casual which we cannot ignore in gaming industry. It's much more bigger than hyper-casual only, because it allowed a lot of people to start playing games, even they were not playing any games before. So when we see this, these are the numbers for 2018 and 19. There are 2.5 billion total gamers all around the world downloading games. And there is this 660 or almost 700 million gamers who play hyper-casual and in-app purchase casual games together. The most important thing about hyper-casual is the monetization method, as you all know. Hyper-casual games are monetized with advertising, which we call in-app advertising. So which means players don't pay for anything, but instead they watch some rewarded ads, they watch some interstitial ads, and providing some monetization and revenue for the developers. This is so in one part you pay for the game, in one part you don't pay for the game, but you watch some videos in order for the game to make money. So when you combine these, certain people pay and watch rewarded ads, and certain people just watch ads. So when we look at this picture, we see that almost 20% of the whole gamers that play hyper-casual, 20% of them are new gamers from hyper-casual. So we see that this already growing gaming industry generates more growth year on year by hyper-casual gamers. So the goal should be the thing that we are most inspired and we have our vision on, is that hyper-casual gamers are potential new paying gamers. So this is like a gateway, it's like an entrance to the gamer world for non-gamers. So that's why we see hyper-casual as an important part of the next gaming revolution. When we consider hyper-casual game development, we have to make sure that it's the first-time user experience is at the highest quality. It requires a lot of research. It requires a lot of understanding of how newbie gamers or non-gamers see the game. It needs to be very easily understood. There needs to be a very highly and accessible core gameplay. And the production times are, with respect to other games, are very low. And the soft launch durations are also very short as well. And monetization is with in-app advertising mostly, but very recently we see this trend of in-app purchases in hyper-casual games as well. So when considering Netmarble, which is an RPG game company mostly, and our expertise is on RPG and MMORPG games, so we defined our own hyper-casual category, and we call it Hypercasual 2.0, which is basically actually hyper-casual games having RPG features. I will give a little bit detail on this. So since we have our own expertise in RPG, we said why not just convert this to hyper-casual? Consider an RPG game and make it very simplified, turned into a hyper-casual version of the RPG, meaning a little bit of a democratization of RPG, meaning making it a little bit simpler, minimalistic, but as sophisticated as an original RPG game. So when considering RPG game features, we are looking at the story and setting. There are a lot of exploration, quests, items, and inventories, which are characters, all upgradable, experiences and levels, the investment in your game when the gamer is playing the game in terms of time and also in terms of money. And we see a lot of combats and a lot of interface and graphics. So when converting this to hyper-casual, we minimalize it both in terms of story and settings and exploration and quests, but those are the inevitable parts of Hypercasual 2.0. Exploration is an important thing, but it needs to be minimalistic, but quests are very important. Items in inventory and the upgradable parts of these items in inventory is very important. It needs to be very basic, very understandable. Characters are also a very important part of Hypercasual 2.0 as well. Upgrading those characters, both in terms of cosmetics and both in terms of skills, is really important. And of course, one thing that should be there is the experience and levels and level ups. So, for instance, merge games and idle games can be a very good example for Hypercasual 2.0, where we can have some other RPG features as well. And also, of course, games like Artero could be a very good example to Hypercasual 2.0 as well. Everything that we're doing when we're trying to convert this hyper-casual to Hypercasual 2.0 can be summarized actually in one slide. When we say hyper-casual, we refer to a very easy core gameplay, a no or very simple meta game. Low retentions, first day retention, okay, second day retention, okay, but 7th, 14th, and 30-day retentions are usually low. In respective LTVs are low as well, and mainly monetization is for in-app advertising. We see a lot of interstitial ads, and rewarded ads are not much part of the main experience. So, but what we have in return is we have this very low CPI, very short production, and very low maintenance games where we require no live operation at all. What we call it in the Netmarble way and Hypercasual plus RPG, which is Hypercasual 2.0, we see a mid-core and hardcore gameplay. There's this richer meta game. We aim for high retention rates, especially in terms of day 7, day 14, and also day 30, day 60, and a little more high LTV, in-app purchase and subscription also, and high CPI, long production, and live operations in all RPG games. These are the things that we see in RPG games, in Netmarble RPG games. When we combine them together for hyper-casual and RPG together, we tend to have a very simple core gameplay. It needs to be simple, it needs to be easy, but in terms of meta game, metagame features, that there is the richness comes in. There is the features that provide higher retention. There are the features that will provide higher LTVs. And in terms of in-app advertising, we don't refer to interstitials because we find interstitials a little bit intrusive, which actually is never the Netmarble way. Netmarble is always against of having no intrusion for the gamer. Gamer experiences are the essential. So we want to have rewarded ads integrated to the experience, so people would like to watch ads in terms of moving forward in the game. So subscription is also another model that we're trying in Hypercasual 2.0. But we have learned from Hypercasual is the low CPI thing. It's really a very important operation in terms of publishing. Low CPI and Hypercasual CPI operations have taught everyone in the publishing area to look at this digital marketing differently. So we keep this low CPI and short-term production, and of course low maintenance, again, in order to create the best margin possible for our games. So this is basically how Hypercasual 2.0 works for Netmarble. What we do for our people and for our indie developers, from game idea generation to publishing, we tend to provide all kinds of support. In terms of game idea generation, we have our trend reports, weekly trend reports. We follow trends wildly, and we always discuss with our studios what the next trend could be. And there are two things especially we focus on: the trends, the current trends, which we can catch very quickly in terms of production and in terms of ideation and in terms of publishing, and the future trends. In terms of future trends, we have different research methods that we share with our studios. We brainstorm together and we develop ideas together. In Game Design Lab, we have a game designer on board in our publishing team, but we work very closely with our studios. And if there is any support need in terms of art direction, we work with our studios. We want to have them the best quality, because quality would be the differentiating thing in the following year, definitely. Development force, if there's we work with our developers, especially in SDK integrations, because things change, updates really can be a pain. So we work with our studios and support them in the best manner we can. And of course, there's this user acquisition and monetization part where Netmarble has its best expertise, especially in terms of monetization. And we have a creative team that's responsible of having the most optimized CPI for our games, and also highest ARPUs in terms of in-app purchase and in-app advertising monetization. And the rest is KPI improvement and scaling. We work together with our teams again. Sometimes one game can be a top chart game, and one game would never see a top chart, but will be very profitable and will make its studio very happy. So we see which game is which and act accordingly and very fast, and work hand in hand with our studios to get the best results. So the process is, I would like to just speak very briefly about the process, which I think all indie studios are very familiar with. But we have this lot of game ideas, talking through game ideas with brainstorming, then we test them very quickly. Sometimes without even testing, we can say certain things, if the game can be a go or no go. Then we move forward to a CPI test where we see definite CPIs, and we test the game in terms of metric. Then afterwards, we manage the launch periods. The trend reports that I've just mentioned, yes, we see streaming trends, popular culture, top 10, top 200, event calendars, everything that can be generated to a game mechanic. We just delve into and research on and discuss with our partners. In Design Lab, we focus on day 1, day 3 first, and day 7 and day 30, which is a definite requirement for Hypercasual 2.0 games. And for testing and KPI improvement, when we see in detail, we have a 1 week of testing period, then we have a launch period for game metrics, then we have an improvement soft launch period for even bettering the game metrics, and afterwards we go to scaling. And this is where we decide if the game would be a top chart game or the game would be a profitable game without even hitting the top charts. So this is another thing that we are very much experienced in doing. So in terms of metrics and KPIs, what we look for, especially with the changes of iOS 14 talks and everything, some of the metrics have changed. We are looking for mass appeal first. It's really important to understand the mass appeal of a game. Facebook is the best place to test it. And we are looking for CTRs like 4% or more. And we would like to hit 20 cent or 30 cent max CPRs in one testing game for the market, for the mass appeal. So audience network and other networks are really important to test on. That's where you understand if the gamers are interested in your game as well. But mass appeal test is the most important test that you have to do when you're working with your game. Then afterwards, you test the builds. And when testing builds, we have a lot of references that we look for, and we just compare the references in our game and try to understand where to improve the game and if there can be an improvement or there cannot be an improvement. So we decide if it's a go or no go instantly. So this is really about pace and deciding very quickly on what can be a hit or not. And in collaboration with our developers, very recently we had a different strategy to work on, which is we partner with our studios exclusively. We have this trial period where we try to understand if the studio and the publishing team can get together, get along easily, and can create something together. And afterwards, we are always looking for a long-term partnership where we can grow with the studio, where we can sustain a growth ratio together with high LTV games. We want to have a very close relationship with our studios. We usually don't work with a lot of studios, and so the team would be distracted and won't be able to spend a lot of time, the time required to spend with the studio, because our goal is creating Hypercasual 2.0 and not just Hypercasual. So it requires a different kind of relationship, a very close relationship. So to sustain that relationship, we work with a few selected number of studios, but we tend to have long-term partnerships with those studios. So yeah, and why Netmarble? Why work with Netmarble? We provide full transparency. We don't want to provide a platform where studios just log in and see the marketing costs and the revenues. But we usually share all our passwords related to their games, so they see the cost platforms, revenue platforms. So there's this full transparency on how much the game makes money and how it performs. Yeah, we're looking for Hypercasual 2.0, which requires long-term relationship with our partners. We have this monetization experience that we have gathered from the lots of the RPG games that we already have proven success. We work fiercely with our studios together for a KPI improvement. Yes. So we are looking for all kinds of game ideas. Anything you would like to ask, please feel free to ask. But we would like to meet with any studio that wants to work with Netmarble or Netmarble's Hypercasual vision. Yeah, that will be all from me today.
Thank you very much for your lecture. And there is one question for you.
Yeah, sure.
I think you know about the fact that Apple wants to enforce new regulations that will require users to explicitly allow tracking their ads.
Yeah.
And how do you think casual games will have to change to reflect these new regulations?
Okay, this is a question that everyone is looking the answer to. The thing is, yes, we have already started to work with this new environment, actually. We are working very closely with our attribution tools. We're working with Adjust, and we're working very closely with them. We're working closely with Apple, trying to understand how this is going to reflect on our results. But the most important thing here is whether we have, whether it's limited or not. the data that you own from your own games would be really, really important. So we will be looking for different login alternatives, different alternatives to keep our own first-party data, and we will have to work from that. Hyper-casual, yeah, might be affected when you consider CPIs. We're expecting CPIs to get a little bit higher. Then afterwards, that it will come stable at a point. But we will have to wait and see until that time, because there are a lot of unknowns. The best thing to do right now is to keep your current what you're doing, but also explore all other alternatives that will be an answer to what's coming next. So it's a lot of trial and error period for us right now. We're trying every other alternative. We're working very closely with our tools and partners. So that will be a time for a lot of new learnings.
Thank you. And there is one more question from Oksana. It actually consists of two parts. One is, could you tell more about how does your trend reports look like? And the second part is, how does a team use this report during their work later? And if producers and game designers discuss it or participate in the discussions?
Okay. First thing, our trend reports are very thorough. Of course, one part is all about app stores. We dig deep in app stores. We try to understand what sticks in top 10 and top 20 for a long time. We usually do researches in stores for like games that were hit 2 years ago, themes that were hit a year ago, and right now. We compare all the themes, try to understand if there's a pattern or not. Usually there are patterns. And for we call it sticky top chart games, the themes that stick, the themes that do not stick with like fashion, they come and go. We try to identify them. We don't work a lot on those themes if we're not very fast and quick in response. So there's this very deeply store analysis, the games in store. Not of course also in top charts, but also in top 200. So we always look for games that are recently submitted in the top charts. But also there is this huge streaming happening in YouTube, Steam, and Twitch. So we also look for trends there. When we're looking for trends, we look for instant changes in spent time, in reviews, in views. So we always swim in this ocean of endless content, gaming content in YouTube and Twitch. So it's a really very important thing for us to see. And what we're doing is, other than gaming, we also look for other cultural trends that people are looking for. Searches in YouTube, again, in instant changes in viewership in YouTube. And other than that, we also look for events, upcoming seasonal events as well. So this is how we construct our trend report. And in the trend report, we always have some game idea recommendations in terms of mechanics, which mechanics users are using, or it's the popular mechanics, and also the popular teams. So we have a lot of recommendations, not a lot of recommendations, we have a very core recommendational ideas, at least 7 or 10 of them, in every trend report in every week. And we get together with our studios. Our publishing managers lead those discussions. Our studios come up with ideas. Sometimes there are 5 ideas a week, sometimes there are 10 ideas a week, sometimes there's only 2. We discuss them thoroughly. We try to understand if the game has a very core loop, and afterward, if the game has any meta potential with the core loop. So we discuss this potential of the idea. Then afterwards, if we select 2 or 3 of them, then we go to testing. We test. In the testing, we want to have a very good presentation of the core mechanic of the game. And if it's present, then afterwards we test it and see if the idea is a go or not. yeah, I hope this explanation helps.
All right, thank you very much, Zehra, for your answers. And we have to end the session. So
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you again. And
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.